Hi, and thank you for watching The Forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent. And today we are talking all about veterans. I'm so excited. So we have Debbie Johnson here, and she's the co-founder of Honor Flight in the Redding area.
Honor Flight, Northern California.
Northern California. And so I'm so excited because this is a national thing, right?
This is a very big deal, and I'm especially happy because my husband took his dad back on an Honor Flight back in the fall of 2014. So we love Honor Flight. I'm really happy we get to share it with you. So I know you guys want to know, what is Honor Flight? Honor Flight was formed back in 2005 by a man named Earl Morse out of Ohio. And the mission is to get as many veterans back to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials that were built to honor their service and sacrifices. We take them for free. There's no charge for those veterans to go. And a lot of them don't have the money at this age or the health. So we have guardians that go with us to help with safety.
And are those guardians generally family members?
Sometimes they're family members, sometimes they're just members of the community, someone who wants to give back and give back to our country by giving back to our veterans. Wow. And so my father-in-law's a World War II veteran, and he went, and the whole plane was full, basically, of World War II veterans, right?
So
does that hold true now? Is it only for World War II veterans, or who can go? We started with World War II veterans because they're the most senior veterans, and now it's open to Korea and Vietnam. And something that you do need to know is that if you have someone that's been diagnosed with a terminal illness, they will come to the top of the list no matter what era they are in.
That's amazing.
How many can you take at one time? We usually take, the ratio has been 30 honorees and 20 guardians. That's changing a little bit because people need more individual assistance, so it's almost a one-on-one now that we go. So 25 and 25.
Oh, okay, 25 and 25. Okay. Yeah. That's amazing. So can more than one, say my husband and I had a veteran that we wanted to go with, could both of us go and we pay for our trip? Or does that not work? As long as that person's not a relative. We had an issue with a lot of family members wanting to come with one veteran, and then they're not, the training that we give guardians is for safety. So the main purpose is that, and if you're with your family member, sometimes that's where you are. You're with your family member, and that's okay one-on-one, but not so many four-on-one. Well, and also you got to figure there's only so much room on the plane, right? So you want we want the veterans, and then you need, and the interesting thing was when my husband went, he got trained, he had to go to like a couple classes beforehand, and tell what's the purpose of that. We have a very important tool, a wheelchair, and our senior veterans, some of them use canes, and there are a lot of uneven walkways and spaces and slick surfaces in our nation's capital, and it is just safer for those folks with canes and walkers to be in a wheelchair, be pampered, enjoy it, and not be as tired as those guardians are going to be, because it's a 3-day marathon for them. So it's a 3-day span, meaning you get on the plane, you're there for a day, you spend the night.
Let me tell you. We start on the first day, we all gather in San Francisco because it has the non-stop flights, and we travel back east. Then we have a nice banquet on Friday night and get to know each other and introduce ourselves. And then Saturday we have all day to look at memorials and go throughout Washington. And we can go as fast as we need to or slow as we need to.
That's fantastic.
And it's just wonderful. They have such a good time, and they start talking to each other, they start talking to us, and we get really emotional by the time. And we fly commercial, so there's other folks on the plane besides us. We don't do a charter flight. Correct. I brought my brochure because it's always nice to have a little bit of purpose and facts. You know, there's still probably 1,200 World War II veterans dying each day, and expectancy. And now that we're taking Korean War veterans, they're aging as well. And there's no age for time to need
assistance.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, and I will just say personally, our story, we're so thankful that my husband was able to take my father-in-law, and that you had this program.
Yes.
Because in the fall of 14, he was still really able to enjoy it and savor it and experience the monuments. And now his mind's gone, you know, so there's no way he would go right now.
No,
and so for those of you watching, you're like, well, you know, my brother was a veteran, or my uncle was a veteran, my aunt was a veteran, you know, it's not just men.
It is not.
Please be sure to contact these guys, because what you're doing is such an amazing gift. Now, how often do the flights go?
We have been fortunate to do at least 2 a year. One in the spring and one in the fall. This year we've done 4.
Oh,
so we've
great.
had really good luck fundraising, and it all depends on how much money we raise, and that is usually the threshold that my CFO tells me is $30,000. Once we have $30,000, I can start calling our list and inviting them to go.
So how many are on your list?
We have been able to share our list with the other 7 hubs in California, so our list is getting a little smaller, and we're able to take them. I had folks raise their hand just last week. We went the 2nd through the 4th. How many had been 2 years?
Waiting?
1 year. You know, yes. When we first started, we had 2,500 names. We had all the names from Ohio that were for out here.
Wow.
And so it took a long, long time for us to get the money and then be able to travel. So now we're almost able to take them as soon as we get the application.
so
we're
good.
so thankful for those who donate. Shall I tell them how to do that?
Yes.
That would be, to get the applications would be at www.honorflightnorcal.org. And our phone number here is 530-357-3380.
And Christy will be sure to repeat that later.
At the end of the segment.
Yeah, but I want to kind of go back to the beginning, and I want you to tell us, you know, what made you want to co-found this? How did you get this started? Yeah, that's kind of important, right?
It is. Well, because he's right here on this page. This is my dad. And we went as one of those folks that had an illness. My dad had filled out the application and then was diagnosed with cancer. So I had a personal call from Earl Morse to
the founder,
and said, here's what you got to do, and you got to do it within a week. So that was fun. And I had to get the wheelchair, I had to take him through the airports, I had to get him back there. So then I met the regional director, and she had been trying to form hubs here in California. And that started while we were in hospice with my dad. And in May of 2008, after my dad had passed away in March, we were able to form a hub with other folks down in Yountville, the Veterans Home in Yountville. We had 2 board members that live there and that have since passed away, and we went from there.
Wow.
And
so that was in 08, and how many flights have you done to date?
We've done 22. Over 700 veterans.
Over 700 veterans. Isn't that amazing? Well, obviously the World War II veterans, you mentioned 1,200 a day are dying, and you had a poem you brought and wanted to read, so this is the time. That's okay, take your time.
It was sent to us. It says, I am a World War II veteran. I am a World War II vet. I served in that horrible war. From what I hear, there are not many of us left anymore. 16 million of us joined in the fight. I still see their faces when I lie awake at night. I signed up at the age of 18, some younger, became an MP full of steam. I served in all branches. I held every rank, from a pilot to a sergeant on an army tank. A lieutenant flying fighters in the blue skies, a young rifleman who thinks his kind never dies. When the ramps went down at Omaha, we knew very well, on this day in Normandy, we were visitors to hell. I went in a boy, came out a man. I trembled with fear, but never ran. On the Navy ships, serving with the best, so many on the bottom, finding eternal rest. On a LST, I brought the war machine. On Okinawa, I proved I was a brave Marine. I fired the big guns, I dodged incoming shells. Only the hand of God knows which of the enemy fell. I was never a hero, just a kid doing his best. No Silver Star or Navy Cross, just one of the rest. And now and then they invite me to parades and ask that I wear my medals on my chest. The ribbons are old, displaying my battle stars. What they never see is my heart full of so many scars. After all these years, it seems they all forgot what we did and why we fought. Maybe it's better that way. Let them ignore the horrors we all suffered when we went to war. Let them sleep in peace and calm at night, knowing that they will never be called again to fight. Not for me. I gave up my youth, my innocent years. I faced danger and death and conquered my fears. I was part of a force, the greatest there ever was. We won for liberty because freedom was our cause. And now I am old, though in my heart I feel young, remembering my comrades and the victory we won. Then I was asked not too long ago to fly on a bird with veterans who could still go, to see a special place where we knew we belonged. I thought America didn't care. I found out I was wrong. Now I am tired, but I will sleep well tonight. Today I was honored. Thank you, Honor Flight.
Oh my gosh, that was for you.
Yeah.
That was specifically
So clearly that was somebody who had been on one of your flights.
Yes.
Or
An honor flight?
Anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anonymous.
Yeah, but it was handed to us after one of our flights, so we assume it was one of ours.
Wow.
We'll never know.
Yeah, you really impacted their life.
You know what I
Yeah.
find so interesting about that is I'm also a veteran, and obviously it's important to me. I never saw war. But I did go over to Germany as doing medical X-ray, and the thing is you realize how tough these people were. Like, these veterans are not that our veterans now are not doing amazing things, but they had no choice.
No,
you know,
they
we
didn't.
made that choice to go into the military.
It's
at
true.
my
You
age.
volunteer.
Yeah, but that wasn't a volunteer.
But let me
mission.
tell you, we have so many that have a mindset about a combat veteran, and you must remember you were supporting that combat veteran even though you weren't in combat.
Absolutely.
Right.
It takes about 20 per combat veteran. I mean, so everybody was part of the wheel to make it work. And so we have had so many folks come out of this flight feeling like they really did belong. My dad was one of them. He thought he was not a veteran.
So tell us again the website. So it's honorflightnorcal.com. .org. honorflightnorcal.org, and your phone number?
530-357-3380.
So I'm sure they'll take donations, they'll take involvement. I know my husband was called not long ago to see if he could go on another flight to assist another veteran. He couldn't, but I mean, they are looking for people to be engaged. Am I right, Debbie? Yeah.
Thanks,
so
Christy.
thank you so much for watching this first half of our show. Thank you, Debbie, for coming, and we'll be
welcome.
right back after a short break.
Hi, and we are back. We're here with Fred Salanti. He is the founder and president of Missing in America. And this is such an interesting organization. It's hard to kind of delve into it, but let's kind of start at
give us
Veterans
the
Day.
skinny. What is Missing in America? It's a Missing in America project, right?
Yes.
Yes, so tell us all about it. It dovetails, by the way, beautifully with what we just did with the Honor Flight.
And Veterans Day, absolutely.
And the Veterans Day celebration.
Right.
Yes. Missing in America project, most people when they joined the military expected to come back, and when they passed they expected to have a military funeral. They expected to have honor and respect paid to them. What they didn't expect is to come back and reside on a mortuary or crematorium shelf. And so Missing in America works with all the local government, federal government. We have 33 state laws passed and a federal law passed that allows us to get the information required by the Department of Veterans Affairs to identify unclaimed cremains as veterans.
Okay.
And when we identify them as veterans, then we organize and facilitate a service at a VA state or national cemetery. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it's under Title 38, so it's free for veterans. And I want to add one thing. We don't do just veterans. We do veterans and their dependents, which is their wife and a dependent child.
Oh, wow.
So if you suffered through a deployment with your husband and you took care of the family and you took care of the kids, you're just as eligible as he is in the eyes of the government.
Wow.
The problem is that it's been a little known secret and kind of a skeleton in our closet that we don't take care of our veterans or watch for them after they pass. I like to say that we can break veterans down into 4 categories. And the 4 categories is anybody that signed up, peacetime, wartime, doesn't matter. You signed up and you're at the mercy of the government and the military to where you're assigned, whether it's a combat zone or whether it's supplying a combat zone.
Right.
So every veteran is equal, and their dependents fall into that as well. So if you go to signed up and you were involved, you're authorized the benefits from the government. The next is if you went to combat and then you were captured or missing in a plane or whatever, you're a POW or an MIA, missing in action, or prisoner of war. Those we look for forever.
Yeah.
We have an organization in Hawaii called JPAC. They're going to every sighting, every rumor of anybody that went down in World War II, World War I, any war. We're still looking for veterans.
Wow.
And then they do DNA and get them approved. So they're taken care of.
Right.
Then we have a group of veterans that are killed in action, KIA. And when they're killed in action, they come back now to lots of benefits, lots of parades, and heartfelt veterans groups showing up to pay their honor and respect. And the family is authorized other benefits from the government.
Right.
But then we have the 4th group of veterans. And the 4th group of veterans are those veterans that have survived the war. They have come back. They have assimilated or tried to assimilate within our society and our communities. Some are very successful. Some are Fortune 500 presidents and started monster businesses and are extremely successful in life.
And become senators.
Yeah, and become senators.
Yes.
John McCain comes to mind.
That's another subject.
Okay. Sorry, moving right along.
Never talk about politics ever, guys.
Okay, so but then some of them aren't quite so successful, right?
Yeah, some of them come back and they've either had some issues with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, or they have problems with either drugs or alcohol because of the pressure and the situation.
Right.
And I think it's very hard for people that haven't been in combat to understand really what happens.
Right.
I go back to 1917 and Freud wrote an article on war and death on a civilian. And he's talking about sitting back with a cigar and a port in a warm fireplace, reading about people getting gassed in trench warfare. Well, look at where he's at.
Right, right.
So how is he or any of us that are here going to be able to rationalize or
empathize?
Yes, because you're not there. You don't know the stress. You don't know wallowing in the mud in the extremes with ambushes coming up. And if you do one thing, you're either killed or your whole friends are killed. So they come and have a problem here. What happens is they are then left. If they pass, they get, and we read about some every day that are under a bridge or that are
you
in a homeless camp.
mentioned that often their marriages fall apart, they lose their jobs, they can't function, and what you've discovered is that they don't even stay where they were, but many of them are. Tell us how Northern California plays in this story.
Well, aside from California, I can tell you any number of stories where we have found people that were unclaimed, we've researched them, we did everything we can, and some of the people that we find take 18 months to verify that they are a veteran or have dependents or not. And so then we provide them a service. And we have them interred with their peers in a very honorable cemetery. Like
You're mentioning that when they're married, when they're still still alive, and their marriages fall apart, and they lose their job, and they're hooked on drugs. Many of them migrate into places like Hayfork
and Trinity,
the remote regions and mountains. You were telling us this before the show. We're like, we didn't know this. Yeah. How do you even know that that these veterans who are not a part of a functioning society are out there?
Well, first of all, the Missing in America Project doesn't know when we go into a place who we are looking for. We walk into a cemetery, or not a cemetery, but a columbarium in a funeral home or a storage facility, and we've had one funeral home give us 4,000 names on the East Coast.
What?
From people all the way back from the 1890s and Civil War. We've buried 15 Civil War veterans and 5 of their wives. 93 years sitting on a shelf with nobody to claim them or put them anywhere.
So these are the unknown remains, are the lists that you're given?
Yes.
Yeah, and when we started Missing in America, we started to go after those people that we could find in a shelf. What I found really swiftly was that as fast as I could take them from a shelf and get them buried, they're on the street right now passing and filling those shelves back up.
Right.
So the Missing in America Project now goes from the minute someone passes, we go to county coroners, we go to other people, and if they can't have anybody claim them or they're not identified, then they turn the names to us.
And then what do you do? How does the detective work start?
We have a special agreement with the Office of Personnel Records in Jefferson Barracks. We have a special form and an input thing. We fill out what we know, we send it in. There's 50 million veterans in our history. 26 million are on computer system, 24 million are in hand look that has to be looked in microfiche.
Wow.
Then they have to research them. Then they come back and say, this is a veteran authorized for burial. Then we're allowed to do something.
So this is if you have a name.
If I have a name and a social security number.
Wow.
Or a service number. Or we used to be able to look up names if we had place of birth or date of death, place of death, but that doesn't work in this society now.
Now, how do you get the funding to bury the veterans?
You have to donate $5 and you have to donate $5. We're totally, no funding, no grants, no anything. It's total on individual donations.
No government or federal funding from that, even though you've helped pass laws and things like that? What?
Actually, the federal law, which they still aren't paying on, authorizes that if you have an unclaimed veteran, used to be if they passed over 2 years ago, you couldn't get anything. The federal law that went into effect January 2014 allows for a coffin or an urn and $300 for who usually the funeral home gets it for doing the cremation or whatever.
Right. So there is some money thanks to efforts.
Actually, it's not like you see a check. It's really deferred on
onto the funeral homes. Right.
Now, where do you bury them? Like, where are they buried?
Well, the nearest national or state cemetery. Here we bury in Igo. If they want to be at a national cemetery, it's Eagle Point or Sacramento Valley at Dixon. But across the nation, it's wherever the closest.
There's a veterans cemetery. So. You mentioned, I want to get back to the living ones because that plays so much into what you're doing with the Missing in America Project.
Yes.
And you want to elaborate a little bit on your concerns as you look at the current living veterans here in the North State?
Well, I think the one thing about the North State, we've been in business for 8 years and we have a very good routine here. And the routine is that anybody from the coroner on down, in California we got a law passed that makes what's called a VRO, a Veterans Remains Officer, and all 56 counties are supposed to appoint one that works with the county sheriff, and the minute they have nobody there, then we're notified. So we're in the loop from the very start.
In the whole state of California.
In the whole state of California. So technically we're cutting off anybody new coming in and we're gradually taking them away.
That's great.
Right.
That's not every state.
Now tell us about some of your facts that you brought up here.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is the program so far has visited about 1,882, and I'm looking at this because it changes by the minute.
Sure.
The minute somebody enters something in, it changes automatically.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So what we have is we went through 1,882 funeral homes. Guess what? There's 23,000 in the nation.
Wow.
We haven't even started.
Yeah.
We visited less than 2,000. We have right now 12,094 names that we're working on. We have identified 2,782 as veterans, and we've buried 2,539 so far to date.
Wow.
So what that's saying is that you have found 12,094 potential veterans,
Yes.
but you've now gone through most of those and you've found 2,782 out of those 12,000.
That are veterans or
That's
dependents.
fantastic.
That's great. That
Yeah.
that otherwise would be sitting on a shelf unrecognized.
Yes.
But
So-
multiply that times 22 more thousand funeral homes.
Well, you
Right.
got to start somewhere.
Right, right. It's a
You gotta
big,
start
daunting
somewhere. You're doing a
task.
great job.
How do people support you? Say somebody says, I really believe in this project. Every veteran should be honorably buried. How do they support you?
First thing is go to www.miap.us.
Wait. MIAP.us. Okay.
And that has everything from every bylaw, every financial, everything on MIAP. It's totally transparent.
MissingInAmericaProject.us. MIAP.us is the best way to get a hold of you. And you're local in what city? Reading.
Reading.
Okay, good. Well, gosh, what an interesting show. Thank you so much for coming on. There's all sorts of ways that you can be connected with helping and supporting veterans in the North State. Thanks for watching the forum. We're going to look forward to seeing you again next week.